Good morning, everybody, and happy Easter. Welcome to the Florence Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. My name is Sally, and I'm joined today by Catherine, we've got Brooke, and we've got Tuvia, who's going to be leading us with Spirit of Life. Tuvia, take it away.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice.
Again, welcome. So what's the first thing we're going to do? We have a couple of announcements. I'm going to start, and then Tuvia has something he wants to share. Just want to remind you that we do have our 5 p.m. Zoom call today. It's a gathering, right? And we hope that our guest speaker today, Reverend Albayati, will join us. Should be a very special event, and we look forward to that. So 5 o'clock Zoom. I'm going to turn this over to Tuvia, who has a special message to share.
Thank you, Sally. The voter suppression crisis is rapidly unfolding and threatens to destroy our democracy. According to CNN, over 250 bills in at least 43 states aim to restrict voting access. It is our business as Unitarians to comprehend this blatant assault on human rights. New laws in Georgia make it harder for minorities to register and vote, while making it easier for fringe hate groups to challenge their registration. It empowers state officials to take over local election boards. This means that minorities are finding it hard to push back from laws that discriminate and hurt them. Suppression tactics in Georgia criminalize offering food and water to individuals forced to wait hours in line to vote because the Georgia GOP dramatically reduced the number of polling places available over the past 10 years. Fewer polling places mean longer lines, and while waiting for hours, voters can't be given food or water by neighbors because now it's against the law. These new laws also allow for unlimited challenges to a voter's registration, used to racially profile and discriminate, intimidating them from voting or knocking them off the voter rolls completely. With such inability to vote, a prejudicial system can't be changed. Add to this the new restrictions on mail-in voting. Voters will now be required to provide either their driver's license or state ID number, or a photocopy of their ID to cast a mail-in ballot. These docs are unattainable by the state's poorest transient citizens, so they can't vote. It also bans third-party groups from sending absentee ballot applications to voters, and ends the use of portable voting sites. These new and clearly biased laws suppress voting and allow votes to be thrown out at the will of the party leadership who would otherwise be voted out of office. It allows them to continue discrimination that divides, separates, and suppresses minorities. As you know, Delta Airlines, one of the largest corporations in America, is headquartered in Atlanta. Ed Bastian, Delta CEO, said the voting bill Governor Kemp signed last week was unacceptable, wrong, and based on a lie. Delta, Home Depot, Coca-Cola, and professional sports team face boycott unless they take strong position against this legislation. President Joe Biden has called the bill Jim Crow in the 21st century and an atrocity. That is why there is so much anger, painfully wrong. It's hard to just stand by and watch. Indeed, we do live in a perilous country. George Floyd's wrongful, excruciating, suffering murder by the police exemplifies a prejudicial America in deep trouble. Unless there is justice for all, we do not have justice. Soon, we will be back together again, joining hands and singing, "Let There Be Peace on Earth." Let us be unified in facing the critical issues of our time. Thank you.
Thank you, Tuvia. I certainly appreciate personally your ability to very succinctly share what's in your heart and mind, and I believe what's in the heart and mind of many Unitarian Universalists. We're not a religion that wants to divide. We really do want to be inclusive. So anyone's welcome to join us, and I love that about this particular religion. So thank you very much. And also, I will be boycotting the Masters, my favorite golf tournament on the planet. I will not watch it. I cannot abide by that. And we have to have our own voice and do our own thing to take a stand on what we believe is injustice. So I will miss the Masters this year. So now on to some enlivening news. We have a board meeting on Wednesday, the 14th. It's at 3:30. And details for our annual celebration and visioning retreat on April 17th are being finalized, and we'll get that information to you. Are there any other announcements that anyone here would like to share? Catherine, Jay, Tuvia, Brooke? Okay. So next week, we are delighted to have Dr. Ruth Miller with us again for a special message about becoming, which is our theme for April, which starts today. With that said, here is what Albert Schweitzer said on that subject. The path of awakening is not about becoming who you are. Rather, it is about unbecoming who you are not. I invite Brooke to come forward as we light our chalice this morning. This comes from the Oberlin UU Fellowship of Oberlin, Ohio. I know, it's a tricky thing. That's part of being a good UUer, is trying to figure out how to use the clicker. We light this chalice to find inner peace, love for each other, and faith in ourselves. Also to be welcoming to whomever we meet and kind to all living creatures. So gather around this light here or at home, this light of hope as we share this time together. Blessed be. Catherine, I think you've got some joys and concerns to share? Mm-hmm.
Good morning, everyone. This is the area of this is the part of our ceremony where we share our joys and concerns. We share what keeps us connected to each other, even though we can't meet. It reminds us to hold each other in our hearts and minds, always. But, when we mention it, it's like that added, remembrance. Yeah. Sally is going to drop the shell. So this first one is for Karen Cooper and her friend Robin, another shell for that. And sadly, we mentioned Robin a couple of weeks ago, or about 3 weeks ago, I think, or maybe a month ago now, that she had stage 4 cancer, and she has transitioned. I know Karen was on her way there to see her and was hoping that she would get there before she transitioned. I'm not sure if that was the case, but she texted me and told me that her friend had passed. And of Of course, Robin, we're thinking of you, but we know you're well in the realm that you are. But Karen is very devastated. This is a very close and long-term friend of hers. Karen, we love you, and we're here for you. The second is also a concern. I don't know much about it. Fred Miller, who is our Buddhist leader here, our Zen Buddhist leader here in Florence, he is having surgery. Now, I don't know much about it, but he is just such an incredible, incredible being, and we want him safe, secure, ready to do all of this here for us again.
Yes.
And so our hearts, our minds, and all of our prayers go to you, Fred. Sally, you have something about Barb, I believe, okay? Mm-hmm.
So I learned through Paula Harrison that Barb McLean, she did suffer some spiked blood pressure and rendered her unconscious, and they've rushed her off to Peace Harbor in Eugene. She spent a week there, and I believe is now in what they call rehab over in the University District in Eugene. Luckily, Barb's sister and brother-in-law are here in Oregon. I think they're staying at the Heartfelt House at the Peace Harbor Center. What's that called? The Gateway? No. What's that center called?
It's the old Sacred Heart Hospital in downtown.
No, actually, I'm talking about the Heartfelt House is located on next to the big hospital, Riverbend, and that's free lodging, by the way. So it's a wonderful ability for them to be here to support Barb. So our thoughts and prayers go out to Barb McLean, and yeah, thank you. You have something you want to share?
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to drop a couple of shells. Two concerns. One is for Dolores Morgan, who's a neighbor of mine and who's been here to Booth several times. She has had a surgery. She's back home now, but she needs our prayers to get healthy and strong again. The other person is Kathy Yelly, Bruce's wife. Bruce's father, I believe, is on hospice now, so we can have prayers for him. And joy today is that Vanessa Babeau is visiting from Colorado for Passover, and we're just so excited to see her. She looks great, and it's a happy day.
Can I drop a shell for that?
Yeah.
That's for Vanessa. Welcome back, Vanessa.
Thank you both. So finally, I'm just going to say, remember all those who are precious to you. They just need our thoughts, and thoughts they spin right to the person, energetically.
Yeah.
It affects them, even if they don't know it.
Yeah.
So yes, remember all those who are precious to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. So at this time, I'm going to invite you to relax. We have a musical interlude that Jeff Lovejoy recorded. Geez, this goes back several months. It's hymn number 151, and it's called I Wish I Knew How. And I invite you to relax and enjoy this musical interlude. And yeah.
I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could break all these chains holding me. I wish I could say all the things I could say. Say 'em loud, say 'em clear, for the whole wide world to hear. I wish could share all the love in my heart. Remove all the bars that still keep us apart. I wish you could know what it means to be me. Then you'd see and agree everyone should be free. I wish I could be like a bird up in the sky. How sweet it would be if I found I could fly. I'd soar to the sun and look down at the sea. Then I'd sing, 'cause I know how it feels to be free. Then I'd sing, 'cause I know how it feels to be
Thank you for that beautiful music, Jeff. You always really light up our hearts. Our reading today is titled, "The Wound is Where the Light Enters You," by Rumi. Trust your wound to a skilled healer. You can't see the ugliness of your own wounds. Flies hover over them, your thoughts. Your wound is your heart's state, unilluminated. The healer, this sage, puts a bandage on your wound. The pain is gone. You think you healed all by yourself, but know this. The healing was from the light. The wound is where the light enters you. Blessed be.
Oh, that's beautiful. Reverend Summer Albayati is a UU Muslim of Iraqi descent who has been playing the Arabic drum professionally since the age of 12. Love that. In serving congregations, her focus was on transformation by emphasizing that a mission-focused congregation increases vitality, membership, commitment to justice, and love. Reverend Summer hosts a podcast called The Bayat Beat, a commentary on society and culture with an emphasis on social justice, which has a global audience. She has a chapter in the anthology Centering, Navigating Race, Authenticity, and Power in Ministry, published by Skinner House. Skinner House is the publishing arm of the Unitarian Universalist Association. Reverend Summer serves as our primary contact in the Pacific Western region of the UUA, and I invite you to soak in her message this Easter, titled Jesus, Crucifixion and Resurrection, an Islamic View on Hope and Love.
The wound is where the light enters you. Beloveds, it is Easter, the time when the biblical narrative says Jesus was resurrected, bringing hope to the world. What do Muslims believe about Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection? Some of you may know that Muslims believe in Jesus and his sacred birth, but like many Unitarian Universalists, believe Jesus was a prophet, like all the others who came before. Some Muslims may read the biblical narratives as mythology, focusing on the metaphors within. The story of Jesus is one known to many, so let us turn to the death and possible resurrection as might be understood by the Islamic faith. And let us see if we might have a little more insight into what we believe about this holy holiday called Easter. Now, as you will recall, it is said that Jesus was crucified on a cross, nailed at the hands with arms stretched out like a T. Though each of the Gospels in the canon tell the tale a bit differently, it is the reaction of the people and what followed in the Gospel of Matthew that I want to explore this morning. In the Gospel of Matthew, it says, 2 rebels were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by hurled insults at him, shaking their heads and saying, "You who are going to destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. Come down from the cross if you are the Son of God." In the same way, the chief priests, the teachers of the law, and the elders mocked him. "He saved others," they said, "but he can't save himself. Oh, he's the King of Israel. Let him come down now from the cross and we will believe in him. He trusts in God. Let God rescue him now if he wants him. For he said, 'I am the Son of God.'" In the same way, the rebels who were crucified with him also heaped insults at him. From noon until 3 in the afternoon, darkness came over all the land. About 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And when Jesus had cried out again in a loud voice, he gave up his spirit. At that moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook, the rocks split, and the tombs broke open. The bodies of many holy people who had died were raised to life. They came out of the tombs after Jesus' resurrection and went into the holy city and appeared to many people. We see there were people taunting Jesus and boasting that he could not save himself and would not be saved, that Jesus then gave up his spirit and the curtain of the temple was torn in half. Many holy people were resurrected and appeared to many. This paints quite a picture of suffering and then a possible resurrection. Dr. Ali Attai of Zaytuna College, in a lecture entitled "The Crucifixion and the Quran," based on the book of the same name by Todd Lawson, says this: "The Quran must be read with a cognizance that it is engaging intertextually with Jewish, Christian, and Near Eastern textual and oral traditions during the late antiquity. That is," he says, "the Quran expects you to know its religious subtext or backstory, if you will. The Quran is reacting and commenting on the holy books and stories of the Torah and the biblical narratives. So with this knowledge, let us look at the only verse within the Quran that refers to the crucifixion. And it says, that they said in boast, 'We killed Christ Jesus, the son of Mary, the messenger of God.' But they killed him not, nor crucified him. But so it was made to appear to them, and those who differ therein are full of doubts, with no certain knowledge, but only conjecture to follow. For of a surety they killed him not. Nay, God raised him up unto God's self, and God is exalted in power, wise." Right away, you may notice that the text says Jesus was not crucified. Jesus was not killed, but it was made to appear as though he was killed. And then it says that God raised Jesus up to God's self. It is thought that God would never harm Jesus and would not allow Jesus to suffer on a cross. Thus, God saves Jesus, resurrection. Now, I think it is important to state that throughout the centuries, Islamic theologians have differed on what they thought this verse meant. Some say that Jesus was raptured by God, and others state that someone else was crucified, not Jesus, perhaps Judas. This is the theory of mistaken identity. Others say Jesus ended up traveling to India to preach the gospel because Jesus was made to look dead, appear dead by being unconscious for 6 hours. And when the earthquake happened, people dispersed. Then the companions took Jesus to the tomb and healed his wounds with herbs. And then after 3 days, he was able to walk again. Still, others believe that Jesus truly was killed, the standard explanation for Easter. So we can see that Islamic scholars gave a multitude of explanations for what happened that day. So with all this in mind, I want to turn our minds toward our reading today. You may recognize the last line where Rumi says, "The wound is where the light enters you." What does Rumi mean? Well, light, or nur in Arabic, is a reference to the divine light. We Unitarian Universalists might recognize this light to be in each of us. We are all parts of the divine, perhaps. Our chalice readings and our hymns may remind us to share that light with others, shining love and justice into the world. But what of the wound that Rumi speaks about? Your wound is your heart's state, unilluminated. It is a state in which you find your pain, your suffering, your brokenness. Perhaps you came to worship today with your heart broken and feeling abandoned by the divine, by the universe, by your community, by this nation, by all that is sacred and holy. Beloveds, we have seen a year filled with pain and suffering. We have lost many lives to COVID. I know I have. I've lost friends and colleagues to this pandemic. And then in the past few weeks, we have witnessed senseless killings in Atlanta and Colorado, leaving us to wonder why mass shootings still occur in this nation. Some of us may be struggling with loneliness as we attempt to survive during a time that separates us from loved ones. And just this week, the trial regarding the death of George Floyd has commenced, illuminating for us more details than we may care to even know. Perhaps you have felt like Jesus when he said, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And you think, why have we been abandoned by all that is holy and good? Why is there so much suffering? Why do we keep abandoning one another if we are all a part of the divine spirit? Rumi tells us there is a bandage that will heal our wound. Rumi was well versed in the Quran and its teachings and understood that the Quran calls us to let go of ego and to immerse ourselves in a life filled with compassion and mercy. These are attributes of God known as Rahman and Rahim. But how does one cultivate an embodiment of mercy and compassion within one's life? For the Sufi Muslim like Rumi, one believes in the oneness of God, becoming one with that divine light that we so long for. The divine healing from our suffering is in embodying the attributes of mercy and compassion and sharing that love with others. Simply, it is to open our hearts to a new way, a way that connects one heart to another over and over again. So what do Muslims believe about this concept of resurrection as it applies to our lives? According to Smith and Haddad in the Islamic study of death and resurrection, the Quran doesn't say much about resurrection. Maybe a few, if that, right? A few verses. Especially in reference to what happens in between death and that day known as the day of resurrection, when all souls will be resurrected together. This day is also referenced in the biblical narratives as the day the Messiah returns to the earth to save us all. Some Islamic scholars believe that when we die, we wait in the garden or heaven, awaiting the day we are finally reunited with our bodies. This might be a more literal view of resurrection. And others believe that death and resurrection is about the development of the soul to be unified with the divine while alive in this world. This would be a mystical reading of the text, perhaps. Some Sufis cite the story of the Prophet Muhammad on the night journey, where the Prophet traveled to the divine and witnessed different levels of heaven and hell as proof of this soulful journey. It is believed that death and resurrection is then about a spiritual journey, the stages of development for the soul, so to speak, beginning with a recognition that we have inclinations toward harming ourselves and others, and then acknowledgement that we cannot overcome these tendencies to harm on our own. So we turn to the divine and humble ourselves, seeking the knowledge to carry us on the path toward healing. This then leads us to the final stage of the soul at peace, like nirvana, a feeling that your soul has entered the garden of heaven and rests in peace. Don't we all want to arrive at such a state and rest there all the time? Perhaps you have had moments of such utter bliss, such a state of being at peace with all that you know what that feels like and want that feeling all the time. The Sufi scholars tell us we can have it as long as we turn towards the divine, acknowledging that we need help on this path, acknowledging that we are not perfect, and humble ourselves to the journey of the night. Perhaps the biblical verse that states that Jesus gave up his spirit was the acknowledgement that in order to relieve his suffering, he must ask for help. I wonder, what if this is a spiritual offering, a letting go, a giving over to the divine will to embody mercy and compassion within our lives? What if it is like the night's journey of the Prophet Muhammad? What if this passage in Matthew is really a roadmap that is telling us that the way to relieve our suffering is through spiritual practices that take us to the divine love we seek? What may be the answer then? What if all is revealed once we let go and seek that divine love? The curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The curtain in Islam, this curtain is known as the veil between the world and the next, and is called barzakh. Sufis believe you can visit this place through meditation. 12th and 13th century Sufi philosopher Ibn Arabi describes barzakh as anything that simultaneously divides and brings together two things, like the line that separates sunlight and shade. He says the real is sheer light, and the impossible is sheer darkness. Darkness never turns into light, and light never turns into darkness. The created realm is the barzakh between light and darkness. In its essence, it is qualified neither by darkness nor by light, since it is the barzakh and the middle, having a property from each of its two sides. Humans exist between the two paths. Through one eye and one path, they accept light and look upon it in the measure of their preparedness. Through the other and the other path, they look upon darkness and turn towards it. Humans traverse the in-between with thoughts on the paths they may take. They dance with temptations, perhaps always striving to focus on the good, but sometimes turning toward that which may not be good for them. It's a dance, a balance act. So when the curtain is torn, the veil pulled away, the barzakh reveals the spirits of another world, the hereafter, and these spirits appear to them. Perhaps this appearing is finally the knowledge of the right path to the divine, that which unifies with the divine love. For Muslims, this right path is called Tawheed, oneness of God, and it's probably the most important concept in Islam because it lifts up the ability to unify with God or carry out the divine will. Because without that, there is no peace, there is no love, there is no hope. And for the pre-Islamic Arabs, there was no hope. Their poetry reflected a belief that was fatalistic. They had no agency. They felt they could not change their destiny. It was sealed. Then the Quran came along and said, no, you can be the captain of your own ship. You can change your experiences and outcomes. All was not lost. Hope is here. They were told that a belief in the oneness of God would provide them with that hope. And if they followed the path of mercy and compassion, connecting to those attributes of God, embodying them within themselves, they could change the world. And they would most certainly be immersed in a love so profound, a love calling them back to their true selves, a radical love. Omid Safi, professor at Duke University and scholar of Islamic mysticism, says in his book, Radical Love, the history of Islam, like the histories of all religious traditions, is filled with these human beings who make God real, make love real, and let love shine. Love is not merely an emotion, but the very unleashing of God on earth. Love and justice are seen as being intrinsically connected. This radical love is one that moves inward and shows up as tenderness and pours outward and shines as justice. These pre-Islamic Arabs were told through a holy book that there is a love so fierce, calling them to justice, telling them that all are created equal, a love that tells them to relieve the suffering of the slave by freeing them, a love that says give charity and care for the orphans and widows, a love that says focus on the heavenly gate that you are surely to enter when you die. This love says be on the side of the marginalized. In so doing, you become one with God. You are Rahman and Rahim. You are mercy. You are compassion. You are justice. You are love. And when you do, all that remains is God or love. And that is heaven on earth. Beloveds, this Easter, may you know that it is in community, in unifying our divine lights, that we are resurrected collectively. It is when we all turn toward that which is most important: love, compassion, mercy. And we embody them within our own lives, giving mercy and compassion to ourselves and to others, letting go of thinking we know the way, asking one another for help, humbling ourselves to open our hearts to love, that we then will be resurrected and know hope. May you experience such love. May you experience such hope. May you know peace this Easter, this spring, a peace that tells you that you are loved beyond measure. I leave you with the transformative words of Rumi. I journey to every realm, running here, running there. I've never seen a realm like the realm of love, a love that spills over at the beginning. Didn't cherish this love. Not knowing led me to an exile of suffering. I let go of this sweet realm, became like an animal, grazing here, grazing there, loveless. Every sound I heard was vile. No matter where in the world I was, a soft voice whispered to me, from the realm of love. Dear soul, keep on your journey. It is me who created the abode of suffering. I said, I don't want to go there into this suffering. I wailed. He said, go, my love. Anywhere you like, I am closer to you than the beating of your heart. He enchanted me. This enchantment I bought with heart and soul. His enchantment brings the world to dance. Who am I? Since I returned to that unmanifest world, I would tell you that you'll know when you get here. But the pen broke when I arrived here. Beloveds, go write the book of love. It is waiting to be written on your hearts. Love and justice is all that is required to bring hope into this world. This is crucifixion. This is resurrection. This is hope. And this is love. May it be so. May it be so. May it be so. Amin, Ashe, and blessed be.
Thank you, Reverend Summer. Really appreciate your message on this Easter Sunday. And I do hope you'll join us on our gathering today at 5 p.m. I'm going to ask everybody who's listened to this message today to, think about what the impact it had on you. And come to the gathering, if just for a few minutes, and share your thoughts and your impressions of this message, and maybe share what you're doing on this particular day. So this is the time when we enter our offertory, shall we say. We do this every week, and we are lucky enough to have kind and generous people like you who provide financial support. In this case, it's for Florence Food Share, and they have been our community partner last month and then through April. So I ask that you consider the many great things that Food Share provides to our community members and offer your contribution of support. You can send us a check to P.O. Box 2502, Florence 97439, or you can click the donate button on our website. 2 easy ways to give. We'll make sure that they get your contribution. As well, as long as you're there, you might as well send us a check to FOOF, and we'll put that money to good use, right? We've got things coming up, and we want to be able to continue to keep our front doors open, metaphorically and physically when it comes time. So your contributions and pledge payment will be appreciated as well. So as we move forward with this offertory here at FOOF, and I invite you at home to repeat after me. Divine love through me.
Divine love through me.
Blesses and multiplies all that I am.
Blesses and multiplies all that I am.
All that I give.
All that I give.
And all that I receive.
And all that I receive.
I am prosperous now.
I am prosperous now.
Blessed be.
Blessed be.
Ah, that's great. Thank you. So we've come to the end. I'm going to invite Brooke to come back up as we extinguish the flame in our chalice, and you can extinguish the flame in your candle at home. I share these words from Jean Olson, titled, Go Boldly. May you be brave enough to expose your aching woundedness and reveal your vulnerability. May you sing the music within you, composing your own melody, playing your song with all your heart. Blessed be.
Blessed be.
As we close out, I invite Catherine to come back up. We have a special reading titled God Remains by Persian poet Fakhruddin, and Catherine will read these closing words.
These words of intoxication come to me. I love these Persian mystics. They're always intoxicated with God. These words of intoxication come to me. Forgive me. No choice. I have fallen into an ocean. Have I fallen into an ocean without shore? I rival the 7 seas, though I haven't the strength for a single dewdrop. There is no room for hopelessness. My heart swims in an ocean of hope. My tired soul arriving at the shore cries out, how can we be apart from us? You and I departed, God remains.
Thank you, Catherine. At this time, I invite Tuvia to come back up. He's going to send us off with the peace song. And we're going to sing that out and sing it proud. And then again, see you at the Zoom call at 5 p.m. Tuvia, the peace song.